for Barkley Debrief. There's a lot of stuff going on, a lot of stuff to talk about. This one might be a little bit longer than the previous Debrief episodes we've done. Joined by Irish international hoka racer Ricky Wynn. Have you caught up on the hashtag and on X?
Pretty much. It's unbelievable this year. It's like literally edge of my seat stuff. I'm waiting every refresh. Keep doing legends. You know what I mean? It's been an amazing year so far. Loop 5
Yeah.
is gonna rock.
It's been so exciting this year. It sort of builds each year, but this feels like a special one for whatever reason. I'm not sure. For the viewers, thanks for tuning in. We're going to unpack what we know. We're going to do some predictions. I've had a look at some of the times and things. Also, I see there's plenty of stuff going on in the chat. And absolutely, Claire, hashtag small European woman for the win. That's what we want. But let's start off with the weather. So it's currently about 7:30 a.m. in Frozen Head, and that's about an hour after sunrise. Weather for the day is looking wetter than the previous couple of days, but still, it's not cold, it's not windy. Some rain coming in about 8 o'clock. Light rain predicted all day, basically. So I don't think that's going to become a bit of an issue. So we're going to continue to have this easy weather here at the Barkley. Also, some other interesting stuff. The sun is up, obviously, and the runners basically were starting loop 5 with just around 3-ish and a bit, the front runners, 3-ish hours of darkness before dawn. So that means that it's going to be, maybe we'll call it again, an easier loop potentially. So Ricky, any thoughts on the weather? Or it does seem like the weather's maybe contributing to these quicker times this year, right?
100%. Like there's 7 people out on loop 5 now, and I reckon it's a lot of that's all down to the weather, because they're able to run a lot faster because it's been kind to them. And especially going into loop 5 now, they're going to be running a lot of that in the daylight. So I'm not saying it's going to be electrically fast or anything like that, because they're after running for like 45, 46, 47 hours. But compared to other years where the weather would have beat the shit out of them, they're going to be flying. We're going to see some serious course records, I think, this year.
Yeah, it's building up to that type of thing. So let's just cross off the list and see what we know about the drops. So during or in loop 4, we had Albert Herrero Casas and Tomo Aihara walk back down Quitters Road, the infamous Quitters Road. William Guadin, I'm butchering the names, I'm sure, but so would all of you, and so would Ricky. So we're cancelling each other out here. And he was quoted as, he dropped at the Fire Tower, and he was quoted as saying, "It's really different to the Barkley Fall Classic." Hey, no shit. This is Barkley. This is the real deal. And then Thomas Dunkerbeck also was a drop. No details on him. And maybe if anyone in the chat has info on Guillaume Calmet, because we know that he finished the loop and he had to go back and get a page or something like that. But there's no information on him starting another loop, and I haven't seen any more updates on him. So if there's any intel out there that we're not aware of, stick it in the chat so that we're up to speed. So as you've mentioned, Ricky, this is the most we've ever seen on 5 loops, and that means we've also had a record number of 12 fun runs. 12 fun runs, isn't that unreal? And like last year we had 10. So is the Barkley getting easier, or is it purely down to weather? Or as somebody DM'd me an interesting point, and that was how much more of Frozen Head is unknown for these new parts of the route each year. What do you think about that?
Yeah, it's a hard one to say, right? Because like Barkley is really that got better and better. But now we're talking about elite athletes. Serious vert. They know how to take on the Barkley, and that's why we're seeing 7 unbelievable runners out on loop 5. Like, simple as that, you know.
Ricky, I think there's some issues with your internet coming through. We're seeing in the chat. I'll assume that mine is okay at this stage. So yeah, that's a good point. Like, even if the likes of Killian Jornet was to toe the line at Barkley, just because he's athletically gifted, doesn't mean that he'll be able to navigate and do all the things that need to be done to be successful at the Barkley. What I think's amazing with John Kelly is he's a great athlete, but he wants to share, and it's feels like it's just like that's like the core of ultra running, is just sort of helping others get better at this type of thing, and sort of he's imparting his local knowledge and bringing all these people through and showing them, taking the lead in some of these loops. So I just think that's kind of like a pretty cool takeaway from it. Let's move on to the runners then. So first in at the end of the fourth loop, we had Ihor Veris and John Kelly basically together in 45 hours and 46 minutes. Doing really well there. Ihor was first to touch the gate, so he was had route choice to go back out on the fifth loop, and he's chose clockwise direction, which we know everyone says this is an easier route. I think that basically comes down to they start clockwise, so they have more experience by the time it gets to the end of doing the clockwise route. That's my assumption anyway. So they began the fifth loop at around 3 a.m., which was 4.5 hours ago. So they're well into the meat and potatoes of this loop now. Ricky, what do you think?
Yeah, like, what are we looking at? We're looking at like between 8-9 hours, maybe 8 or 9 hours. We could have somebody coming across, touching the gate. We could have the winner. Who's it going to be? Is it going to be John Kelly hitting number 3 with the win? Is it going to be Igor, Ivor,
Ihor or
Is it
something?
going to
Yeah,
be
yeah.
him? Yeah. Is it going to be this first time legend that's going to write his name in the history books of the Barkley? Like, it's super cool. Or is it going to be Jasmine Paris? Like, I don't want to burst the bubble and say I don't think so. I think she's too. We all live and dream and hope that it could.
Yeah, totally. Looking at historical fourth loop times for John, so he ran 45:57 in 2023 when he finished in 58:42. So that's potentially 13 hours for loop 5. Now, that fourth loop was just over 14 hours, and I think that basically comes down to it was a night loop, so that slows people down. Ricky, I think maybe you're having some internet issues. It's clear for me, but I think others are having some difficulty there seeing you. Um, and then it's hard to predict that, but I'm thinking 13 hours. So it's not like they're going to come in with hours to spare here. We're talking about high 50 hours coming up to 60. And what that means for runners like Jasmine, Sebastian, even Jared Campbell is they're going to be super close to the time. Anyway, moving on. Let's see, what do we have next? Damo Hall and Greg Campbell coming in together 30 minutes after Eeyore and John in 46:15 and 46:16. So that's interesting. We've sort of got two pairs of two runners. And what have we got? Yeah, okay, yeah. Barkley's blowing up the internet, guys. Bear with us. We're doing our best. Luckily, I'll do most of the talking here. So again, we have two sets of two runners, And that means we've got a pair that went out clockwise, anti-clockwise, and then a second pair doing the same, which is really interesting. That's also is a first. There's not much that we know. I personally know about Greg. Oh, have I frozen?
You're frozen.
Yeah, my video's frozen. I see that. Sorry, guys. Um, Not much I can do about that. Yeah, can you still hear me?
Yeah, we can. I can hear you. Yeah,
Yeah, we'll just roll with it. This is the first time I've had any sort of issues. So, uh, yeah, so don't know much about Greg, but looking at his ultra sign up, he has run a fun run before, from what I can see, and he's from New Zealand, so he doesn't have an awful lot of race history that we can look up easily. He has done a couple of the big runs in New Zealand, but again, this is an experienced guy, but he's an international guy, so what do you do? If anyone has any information about Greg in the chat, let us know, and we'll feed that into the show. What I think is interesting going into this fifth loop is we're going to now see how is Damien going to handle this on his own. Does he try and push to close up this 30 minutes to catch Eeyore? And if so, could he get lost doing that because he's focusing too much on the catch up rather than the navigation? What do you think?
yeah, yeah. Definitely could happen. Definitely, but ah, it's it's so hard to call. It's so hard to call. Um, what was I going to say there? I was going to jump on something there. Just thinking about we'd say I wanted to make sure that we didn't forget to talk about Jared Campbell, because Jared Campbell is on loop 5 as well. Again, going for number 4, which would again go down in the history books as well for 4.
We're going to come to that. We're going to come to Jared as we work our way down through.
Yeah. You go for it there.
Sorry, guys, I'm not sure why I'm stuck in this really complimentary position on the video, but it is what it is. Yeah, so just touching on the crew then, as we have mentioned there in the chat, and also this person slitted the DMs on Instagram, was saying that um, John Kelly's they were involved in Crew and John Kelly when he was in the UK, and now there's there's some intel from the camp on uh, John's crew at this stage, and one of those is Gary Robbins. So let us know in the chat. Do you think this is lighting any sort of fire for Gary Robbins? Is he interested in potentially giving Barkley a go? I'm not sure if uh, it's going to happen. I think his best days are maybe gone. What do you think, Ricky?
No, look, I like Gary Robbins, but I think his Barkley days are done. I think he's numbered on that. I actually think Barkley broke Gary Robbins because unfortunately, he kind of failed as an athlete after Barkley, because look, it destroys you. It absolutely destroys it. Like we were talking about the guy from New Zealand. We don't know much about him, but he's done a fun run, right? But I mean, the way we talk about it's like he's done a fun run. He's done a fun run in Barkley, which means like he is a legitimate, unbelievable athlete to get 3 loops in the Barkley, and that's why he's come back super strong, and that's why he's chasing down the leaders on loop 5, because that's what it takes. It takes an elite athlete to chase these guys down, and I just think that for Gary to come back to Barkley, he'd need to be super motivated, super focused, and I just think after going through what he's gone through in Barkley, I don't think he's got the heart anymore for it.
Yeah, I agree with you there, Ricky. Moving on, then we have Jared Campbell and Jasmine Paris, both coming in on loop 4, 15 minutes apart, 46:19, 46:29. Jasmine must have started loop 5 first because she has gone out in the clockwise direction. So she went for a quick turnaround. If we look at, or we just reference the fourth loop times, Jasmine's was 14 hours 25, Jared's was 14:05 or thereabouts. So it's going to be quite tight. I think what that means is Jasmine needs to run a 13 and a half hour fifth loop to get in under the 60 hours, which is definitely very, very possible. And I think everyone is rooting for small European woman at this stage. This would be the absolute story of the Barkley, I think. What do you think about Jared's chances? Let's start off with that one, Ricky.
Yeah, because of the times. Like I know it was a night loop, and they're 14 hours, and they've got like around 14 hours to complete, or just less than 14 hours. Oh, it's going to be tight, man. It's going to be some finish, hey, for both of them. Like it's going to be down to the wire. Like it's so exciting to see it now. But I really hope that the two of them get it. Obviously, I really hope that Jared can finish out that like 4 times Barkley. Like it'd be insane. But it's going to be tight. It's going to be down to the wire. I think seconds to spare before they touch that gate.
Yeah. And what do you think about Jasmine's chances of a sub 13 and a half hour fifth loop, given that the 10 hours plus of that is going to be daylight?
Yeah, it's going to be daylight, but it's the fifth loop. Like she again going to be out for like 50 plus hours. Like everything has to go right on this final loop for Jasmine. Everything. She can't make any mistakes. And like who doesn't make mistakes after being out for like 58, 59 hours? You know, again, it's going to be so tight. We're all rooting for Jasmine, but it's going to be down to the wire. It's going to be so tight.
Yeah, yeah, good point. And Steve in the chat suggesting that Davy and Jasmine may very well pair up. That would be definitely a good move for Demo. But Jasmine has run most of this thing on her own. So yeah, I'm not sure that she would have much to gain from that. But yeah, Damien, if he slowed down and waited for Jasmine, that would be beneficial. But can you really think like that 50 hours into this run? I think he's got to maybe focus on just getting it done. And if he naturally slows, maybe one of the people behind him will catch up. Thoughts on that?
Yeah, I don't think that's going to be like I don't think Damien Hall's thinking about that right now. I think Damien Hall's just thinking about the finish for himself. I'm sure if it happens and Jasmine just come up alongside him, but if that happens, that means he's slowing down because he's naturally slowing down, and maybe Jasmine will actually G him up and get him over the line, and the two of them could work together that way. But I think it's highly unlikely because they're both out there doing their own thing, and like I think Damien is just he's got to be super focused on himself right now. Again, he's 55 something. He's 50 hours plus into this. Your head isn't normal. I can't imagine he's thinking like, oh well, I really hope I should wait for Jasmine and pull her along. I can't see how your brain would be functioning like that. You'd be just in survival mode, and it'd just be about finishing, really, you know.
Yeah, and what just referencing what Peter's saying in the chat, Damien actually had the joint slowest fourth loop alongside Sebastian, who's seventh in 14:45 or thereabouts. So Damien's definitely slowing, and Jasmine I think is likely to be nice and steady. And but in all honesty, this is the Barkley. This is the fifth loop. We're going to see some carnage. What do you predict we're going to see in this fifth loop? And that goes out to everyone in the chat and also to you, Ricky. What do you think?
I don't know. I don't know. Like for me, I think the way the first two runners have gone out, I think so. So Ivor and John Kelly, I think it's down to them to see who wins Barkley. But does anyone really win Barkley? It's like it's all about the finishers. But I think it's going to be between those two for the win. And then obviously we all want Jasmine to pull it off. You know what I mean? Like I was saying, it'll probably break the internet if Jasmine does it, but it's lining up to be one of the most exciting finishes ever. To have someone like Jasmine to be the first woman to finish the Barkley, it's lining up for one of the most exciting Barclays ever. You know, and crazy to think that there could be a record amount of finishers this year. Like it's insane. What's
Yeah.
Laz gonna do? What's Laz gonna do when all these people finish the race? What's he gonna do? Like he's got his brain is gonna melt. He's gonna think, how am I gonna make this harder?
Well, that's what we said last year, and look where we are now. So we're going to have to prognosticate about that in the show later on. But interesting fact: if you look at fourth loop times, Eeyore and John, 14 and a quarter hours, but Greg and Jared were 14 and 14:05 ish hours, and those two guys were about 30 minutes back starting the fifth loop. So my prediction here is that we could see like a real four-person race to top the gate at the end. That could be like really exciting. That's going to push people to prioritize speed potentially over navigation, which could lead to some epic carnage. You know, we're just going to have to guess at what could happen here, but I'm predicting multiple people racing up that road to touch the gate, and yeah, it's going to be an exciting one. Any other thoughts on that, Ricky?
Just I think they can afford to go faster. They can afford to push that little bit more and not worry so much about nav because it's a daylight loop now, and because they will have that. You know, they're not. They can rely on the daylight to go that little bit faster. But you're going to see mistakes, and then if they are pushing too hard, they're already on the limit. Then they could just blow up, and it could go from like a potential 4 or 5 finishers to, two finishers. You just never know. Like it's going to be mental.
Yeah, totally. Okay, then just to wrap this up, we are going to go live again this evening, European time. So 8 hours from now is roughly whenever we're going to see people finishing. So we'll go live a little bit after that and debrief on that. We hope that you join us in the chat. I promise you, I will kick the life out of my webcam between now and then until it works. It's the first time we've had some issues. If you're not already a subscriber, please hit subscribe, hit the notification bell so you get notified whenever this goes live again. We appreciate you joining. Also, in the description of the show, there is some discount codes for TORQ Nutrition and for GOREWEAR. The GOREWEAR discount is 30%, so that's pretty massive. Appreciate you if you are interested in that type of stuff, but they help us a lot along, so we're sharing that info with you. Ricky, will we see you later, or maybe somebody else will be taking your seat for the evening show? But either way, I'm sure you'll be tuning in and glued to Twitter.
Yeah, regardless if I'm here.
All right, everyone. Thanks for joining, and we'll see you this evening. Take care. Peace.